A very good afternoon and welcome back to MotorLand Aragon for one final time here on Saturday. It's time for the European Talent Cup to have their second race of the day, with huge drama in race one earlier on today, seeing championship leader David Alonso make his first error in 2020, crashing out, with Zonta van den Goorbergh capitalising in the perfect way, taking a second win of the year and cutting the Colombians' championship lead down to just 38 points. It's Jack Appleyard and Lewis Sudovit with you once again, with the sun thankfully now shining here in northeastern Spain, just outside of Alcañiz. Unfortunately, it looks as though the wind has calmed down as well. We're enjoying at long last a wonderful autumnal Aragon afternoon. And if you missed the first race earlier, here's exactly what happened, with Zonta van den Goorbergh starting from pole position and really not looking back from there.
Yeah, very strong ride indeed. The big shock, of course, came further back, as that was an incident, of course, on the opening lap that took a couple of key contenders out. David Alonso was involved in an interesting battle further back over at second place with Marco Morelli as they fought away into turn one. But the big surprise would come from Alvaro Carpe, who would suddenly find himself right in the mix with the leading group. But the first mistake of David Alonso's 2020 season came right there at turn 13, lost the front going through the right-hander, and he was out. Huge opportunity presented then for Zonta van den Goorbergh and for these guys in this battle for the podium position. Harrison Voigt, the Australian who started from his first front row, getting involved. But van den Goorbergh, having seen Alonso crash out of the race, must have thought that he would have had a clear run to the victory, but not the case at all. Alvaro Carpe, just 13 years old, fighting for the lead and taking the lead for the first time in his HETC career. Van den Goorbergh, though, would have an answer, taking the lead back into turn one again and eventually streaking clear. The podium battle, though, that would be decided right at the very end, although it would not involve either of those two riders. Unfortunately, a crash for Tyler Scott, which took out one of his competitors. Back with the podium battle then, and a cheeky move on the inside there into the final corner would eventually lead to chaos behind. A clash between two riders who we saw crash at the last corner just a few weeks ago in the fight for the podium. No such trouble for Zonta van den Goorbergh, who took, in the end, a straightforward victory as Carpe settled for a career best second. And the championship, well, is it back on? He doesn't think so, not publicly at least, but he has taken a huge chunk out of David Alonso's lead. Can he make further inroads this afternoon?
Well, when you spoke to Zonta van den Goorbergh after his win early and you asked him, "Oh, David Alonso crashed, is the championship back on?" I was expecting an extremely excited young Dutchman to go, "Yes, I can do it."
Cry.
And he just went, "No." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay, then no worries. We're trying to, next time, just whisper in his ear, we're trying to build up a bit of drama for the championship."
If he wins the race again this afternoon, I might just ask him the same question again and see if his answer's any different. It certainly depends on where David Alonso is. But that aside, van den Goorbergh is, well, he's certainly the form rider at the moment. Of course, the championship standings look very favourable still for David Alonso, a 38-point lead overall. But Zonta van den Goorbergh now with back-to-back victories. Of course, he had a win taken away from him in Jerez when he led over the line but got a post-race track limits demotion. So the form that he's in is exceptional, and he's been quickest right throughout this weekend. That is the state of the championship at the moment, with van den Goorbergh trailing by 38 from David Alonso. He is second at the moment, despite what you may see on your screen there. And van den Goorbergh, with the pace he's shown this weekend, there is every chance that that lead could shrink yet more still, with two more Hawkers European Talent Cup races to come, one today and another tomorrow.
And then another two in Valencia as well. There's still 100 points up for grabs, and if the same thing happens this afternoon that happened this morning, then that championship lead will then be 24 points, and suddenly van den Goorbergh, whether he says it or not, is definitely in contention. But right now, maybe it's a good sort of mindset for him to have, not to worry about the championship. All he can do right now is go out, win races and hope for the best. If it happens, it happens, but there's no point worrying about the uncontrollables. And right now, that's exactly what it is, because if David Alonso follows him home in second place for the next 4 races, he will be champion. So all that Van den Goorbergh can do is go out from pole position, take the whole shot, win the race, and let's see what happens from there. And I'm sure having a father like Jürgen van den Goorbergh, a former 500cc Grand Prix competitor, so much experience, he'll have whispered that in his ear.
Absolutely, as you mentioned, Van den Goorbergh could win the final 4 races and still not win the championship. So yeah, he can only control his own performances, and at the moment he's doing that very, very well indeed, as is this young man, Harrison Voigt, the young Australian. Podium earlier on today. He won that crazy battle for third place, which of course ended in tears for a couple of his competitors at the final corner. And Harrison Voigt, starting from second on the grid, will be looking to add another podium to that later on today. But the pressure, most certainly, is on this young man. He's not had to face much adversity so far in this 2020 season, David Alonso. A bad day for him has been second place so far, but a crash for him earlier today. Looks calm enough on the grid, doesn't he, as he's preparing for this afternoon's race. But as you can see on that graphic there, his first non-score of the season, his first failure to finish inside the top 2 with that crash at turn 13. And this afternoon, I think, will give us a bit of an insight into his mind and his mental strength. If he can just bounce back and put that behind him and get himself back into contention and maybe even get back to winning ways. We shall see. Yeah,
this is the biggest test yet. There's no doubt in that for David Alonso, just 14 years of age. He rides under the Colombian flag, but lives in Spain. He rides under the yellow, red and blue of Colombia, thanks to his grandparents coming from there. It's no surprise to see him contending at the top. He was 5th in last year's European Talent Cup, with podiums coming at Aragon and in Jerez and Estoril as well. So not a real shock to see him at the front. I don't think anybody expected him to be dominant as he is, especially having a teammate like that. The number 48 of Izan Guevara has 5 podiums to his name, including 3 victories last year. He really was the favourite coming into this championship. Not really put it together so far, but certainly was showcasing a little bit more of what he's capable of doing in race 1 earlier on today. Just missing out on a podium behind Harrison Voigt, but a 4th place finish, 3rd top 4 finish of the year for the Spaniard, as he looks to try and get his season finally underway.
Julian Garcia then starts 5th, and of course, as you can see once again, he unfortunately failed to score earlier on. He crashed out of a very, very strong position, and there are a few riders who will be coming into this afternoon's race with unfinished business, if you want to put it that way. Alonso we've touched on, Garcia, who you've just seen, and that incident that we saw right at the very end of the race that we saw in the highlights package just a few moments ago, Marco Morelli and Adrian Crutzes, for the 2nd round in a row, coming together at the final corner of the race as they fought for a podium position. This young man, and believe me, he's tiny as well. As he was stood in Part Fermé, he looks very much a 13-year-old in Part Fermé. Very, very young, but performances and experience and pace beyond his years in that race earlier on today. He came, well, not from nowhere, because he started on the 2nd row of the grid, but his performances and his results earlier this season didn't suggest that a 2nd place was coming, but it certainly came, and he ended up chasing Zonta van den Goorbergh most of the way. Yeah, put Zonta under pressure for the vast majority of the race before the young Dutchman eventually cleared off in the final 2 or 3 laps. Potentially Carpe happy to settle with a first ever podium finish, but he's set the benchmark now, that's for certain. He'll have to try and repeat those kind of performances starting here this afternoon. This is definitely one man to keep your eye on. Angel Piqueras was able to come across the line in 5th place in race 1, and you might be wondering, well, why is that a surprise? That's because he had a 6th place grid penalty, so started from 13th instead of 7th, and had to go through the long lap penalty loop as well, so he did it the hard way, but still finished 5th. Now that he hasn't got any of those penalties to worry about, starting from row number 3 of the grid, he's going to be one to keep your eye on. Starting from pole, though, will be Zonta van den Goorbergh, looking for a hat-trick of race wins ahead of Harrison Voigt and David Alonso. Row 2, Izan Guevara, Julio Garcia and
Alvaro Carpi. With row 3, that man Angel Piqueras, Marco Morella, his teammate, and Alberto Ferrandez.
Row 4 is headed by Rodriguez ahead of Ruda and Tapia. Kreutzer going for the podium, having had that podium position potentially taken away from him earlier. He's 13th ahead of Farioli and Sacco, with Milan, Jacob Rulstone and Sandoval on row 6.
Further back, Colin Via, the Dutchman, Tyler Scott, the American who crashed out early, and Gavin Plonks, with Rael, Powerlek, Sharil, another man who was involved in a crash earlier on, before Detweiler, Ton and Volpe.
Yeah, Volpe ahead of Perran and Trias, and completing the grid we have Collins starting 29th ahead of Pasiuk, Pavelek, Gigolov, the American who crashed out earlier on, Tagliarini, Henri and Quintans Sanz.
Odd issue for the number 51, that is, who's Angelo Tagliarini, who was going to start from the penultimate row of the grid, was the young Italian. So must have been a bit of an issue with his FM Motorsport racing machine. You can see he has been wheeled off the grid, and more trouble as well. Who's that? I think that may well be Quintan Sanz, right at the back of the grid. Yeah, I think he crashed out earlier on in race 1. We were unable to identify him. He's new to the series this weekend and doesn't have any stickers on the bike whatsoever. It is a plain white machine.
It's Henri, actually, the 56.
Henri, unfortunately. So we won't see a Frenchman bagging a goal here. That was terrible. It doesn't even work, does it? It doesn't even work. So anyway, moving on. Thierry Henry, or should we say the number 56 of Henry, unfortunately looks like he won't be able to start. His team have got the bike in pit lane now, so if they can get it going, which they're looking to do so, they're just pushing him down pit lane now, and he has got it going. He's slapping the tank. He's not very happy. He's the young Frenchman, but he will be able to start from pit lane as a result. But
managed to get some vavavoom back in that bike as he got it to the end of pit lane. But meanwhile, away from Henri jokes, at the front, we've got an interesting battle to come here with Van den Goorbergh on pole position. We never really saw in the end what David Alonso would have done, of course, because he crashed out. He didn't look as if he had the pace to go with Van den Goorbergh anyway. He was already being gapped. But there, this is a key race for the championship with a 38-point lead, so he doesn't necessarily have to panic. He's still in a very, very strong position. But should he lose more points here, particularly if it's more than just the 5 for the first and second, then you will wonder whether some of those demons might start to creep in for Alonso. Having had such a dominant start to the season, he's now looking at Van den Goorbergh, who is second in the championship, not third, as that graphic would suggest, just coming at him at a rate of knots with 2 wins in a row now. And, he's taken 2 wins and a second in the last 4 races and 5th in the other. So Van den Goorbergh, the 4-man at the moment in the European Talent Cup, and he'll be looking to press home his advantage here with a double win.
It's a pivotal race, as you rightly say, this is, Lewis, because if David Alonso can refine the form from the start of the season, then it's just a blip. It's nothing to worry about, and it looks as though with then 3 races remaining after this one, he's going to be able to march his way towards the 2020 European Talent Cup crown. However, if the same sort of incident is to happen once again, then it's more than just a blip. And if Van den Goorbergh can capitalise again, then we truly do have a championship fight on our hands. Can the young Colombian handle the pressure? This is a big race for him. He knows that he has to come up with some sort of reply to Van den Goorbergh. Number 84 lines up in pole position once again. It's a back-to-back poles, so that means this will be the 5th race in a row that he started from the front of the grid. He's getting pretty used to that one, and he's put it to good use so far in 2020. Are we discounting this man? Harrison Voigt from the middle of the 2nd row now has himself 2 podium finishes this season, or will David Alonso respond? We wait for the final race of the day here in Aragon. It's time for the European Talent Cup guys to go to war once more. The lights are on and we're off and underway here in Aragon for one final time on Saturday. And once again, Van den Goorbergh will take the whole shot. He's that far ahead of everyone else. He even had time for a cheeky glance to his left-hand side just to see how much room he's got.
He did. Carpe got away well once again, but he seemed to get sort of squeezed out. He was on the inside into turn 1 and just saw bikes go right around the outside of him as Henri finally rates for the green flag. There it finally goes, and he joins the field belatedly. But look at the gap already that Goorbergh is trying to pull out. Alonso looks like he's pushed his way through into second, ahead of Harrison Voigt, which he needs to do if he wants to do anything about the incredibly informed Goorbergh out front. It is Alonso in second with Voigt in third, and Ivan Ortola has come through in fourth. Piqueras up 1 to 6th at the moment. We've got yellows out at turn 5, so we think a rider might well have gone down. It looks like Trias has dropped down at the back of the field, the number 62. As we have a look now.
Yeah, I think that is Trias, the art box machine, the number 62, Blythe Trias, who's trudging away, just 13 years of age. And incidentally, the art box team are actually a world flat track team as well, and that's exactly what he was doing there, a bit flat tracking through the gravel trap. Disappointment for him. Back at the front though, and it is Goorbergh leading the way, but he's got David Alonso for company this time around. The Aspar man, I think, is going to be quickly joined by teammate Ortola as well. He had a big look up the inside there as they go through turn number 13 for the very first time. No way through at 13, but there is a way through at 14. So it's Aspar 2 and 3 as they both now start to chase down the Super B rider out front. What a move that was from Harrison Voigt. The pair of them look at each other and nearly have contact once again. The gloves are off on lap number 1 between Ortola and Voigt as they fight it out over third place.
It's dream ticket for the top two. This look at the gap they've pulled out. There was a big battle going on as well between the two Estrella Galicia bikes of Morelli and Piqueras over 5th place, and they've got Carpe right behind them as he looks to build on his first podium finish early on today. We know already from earlier on this morning what kind of race pace he's got, and he's now swarming all over the back of Morelli and Piqueras. That's the battle for 5th place.
But it's our two championship protagonists out front, Lewis. Both Goorbergh and Alonso a second clear of Harrison Voigt in third, who manages to hold on to that final podium place as Carpe, just like we saw in race 1, is starting to make his way through the field, now up to 6th place, just behind Morelli.
Yeah, that's Piqueras that he's picked off into turn 1. Piqueras now back down where he started in 7th place, so not making the progress we perhaps expected on this opening lap. But Goorbergh not having it all his own way at the moment. Here comes Ortola then, looking to try and take 3rd place. You see the Estrella Galicia bike of Morelli trying to pick some scraps around the outside, and he might just get past Voigt as well. Indeed he does. Carpe from attacking now might be defending as we go into the tight right-hander here, with battles going on behind him. We've got Kreutzes in there, we've got Milan in there. Ferrandez is looking to try and make progress as well. It's all go, all action right from the start, but at the moment, 2 away at the front.
Was a big look over the shoulder there from Goorbergh there, with only 1.5 laps completed already, just wanting to know who's with him, and he can see that he's got just one man with him, David Alonso. That's not the sight he would have wanted. He would prefer for anybody else but Alonso to be there, hoping that Alonso was mired in the pack further back, but at the moment he's managed to escape trouble up to 2nd place. However, his crash in race 1 was not the fault of anybody else. He's just there at turn 13, the front head folded on him without pressure from anyone else. It was his own mistake, so it could well happen again. I'm sure he'll be a little bit tentative through 13 this time around though. Yeah,
Ortola's hopes of trying to jump across this gap to leading 2 have had to hit a blow, because Morelli has gone past him into 3rd place as they went through that 3rd sector. So Morelli now leads this chasing group, although I'm not so sure they're really giving chase at the moment. More being dropped. The gap at the moment is just under 2 seconds between Goorbergh in the lead and Morelli now leading this chase group, or now being overtaken again by Ortola. Carpe still trying to make progress. He's stuck behind Harrison Voigt at the moment as they go into this final corner. As we come across the line, Goorbergh then leads, 2 laps completed, and he has a 1/4 of a second in hand over Alonso, who matches him for pace, and already 2-second lead over 3rd place Ortola, but there is all to play for that leading group. As you can see, it's essentially the rest of the point scorers who are fighting from 3rd backwards.
It certainly is, all the way down to, I think it's probably Jacob Rulston, the number 12 aboard the Leopard machine, who's there in 17th at the moment. So yeah, it goes from 3rd all the way back to 17th. An almighty scrap for the final points and the podium place as well. Meanwhile, was that anything to worry for David Alonso? Just had a look down to his right-hand foot there. We'll have to just keep an eye on that one. It doesn't look like there's any issue bothering him at the moment, but there he goes again. Yeah. There he goes again. He's certainly not happy with something, is David Alonso. Just glancing down to the right-hand side, whether it's a foot peg or I'm not sure what it might be.
But he's not slowing him down too much at the moment. No. He's still right on the tail of Goorbergh. Fastest man on this lap at the moment is Morelli, who's trying to jump across the gap to these leading two, and he's just gapping Harrison Voigt. Ortola's going with him in 4th position. So we'll keep an eye on David Alonso. It's, as I say, it's not slowing him down. It's clearly a distraction, whatever's going on, but it's certainly not slowing him at the moment.
There's a little bump on the curb on the inside as he goes through turn 12. That's the number 56 that's gone down. Oh, it's that man Henri, started from pit lane.
Bit of an own goal there, unfortunately, for the Frenchman.
Finally, we've got a good Henri put in. And we can come back tomorrow as well. I'm going to have a think overnight, put a few together. Back at the front, though, and that battle for the final podium place is just edging the way of Morelli and Ortola at the moment. They have definitely managed to detach themselves from that's Marcos Ruda now in 5th. We saw the number 69 waving his hands, trying to tap the back of his bike to say to the guys behind, look, in front of us, we're losing touch with the guys in 3rd and 4th. If any of you want a chance at a podium finish, we need to stop this and chase them down. Well, let's see whether they're able to do that, of course.
This is a pair to look out for. They are very, very quick indeed. Now they've stopped fighting the group behind them, they're making gains. Fastest lap of the race for the 95 of Morelli. He was 6/10 faster than the leader on that time around. If he can keep that pace up for another couple of laps, then this pair at the front will have company.
And Ortola's rubbing his hands together as well. Morelli's doing all the hard work, all the dirty work for him, and he's been dragged along up towards the fight for the lead is the number 48 of Ivan Ortola. At the front, though, it's still Vanden Goorbergh. Alonso looks nonplussed by the issue, or we think a moment of such that he's glanced down to his right-hand side on a couple of occasions. No such incident since then, and he's got his head down, and what was a couple of bike lengths between himself and the Dutchman is now absolutely nothing. This is the battle for 5th, though. Still Marcos Ruda, the number 69, that leads the way in it, but he's got plenty of company, has the 15-year-old from Girona.
Yeah, it's not going Alvaro Carpe's way this time. He's down in 10th at the moment. He's lost out in the first part of this lap to a number of the riders in this leading group. So the amazing pace that he showed earlier on and that incredible charge through the field, at the moment he's finding life a little bit more difficult. He is in this group that we're looking at that runs from Ruda backwards. Ruda in 5th position all the way back to Sacco back in 13th. They're all running nose to tail. But Carpe, perhaps he's no longer an unknown quantity, and the riders are perhaps well aware of his threat now.
Meanwhile, definitely worth keeping our eye on Alberto Ferrandez, the man that came into this weekend 2nd in the championship, able to take 7th in race 1 despite not a performance that we've seen. Oh, that's a big look over the shoulder again from Alonso. He has lost a little bit of ground to Vanden Goorbergh.
Vanden Goorbergh's up the pace on this lap, fastest man of anybody in sectors 2 and 3. This is a fast lap coming in from the poleman and race 1 winner, showing exactly what he's all about. But more worryingly, I suppose, for Alonso, is he's still losing time to that duo behind him, which of course includes his teammate Ortola. So rather than Morelli and Ortola catching the leaders, it's more as if Alonso is just sort of reversing back from one opposition to the 2 behind him as they cross the line. Fastest lap of the race to Ortola. It had initially been the fastest lap for Morelli, but of course 900ths of a second later, it was taken away from him by Ortola. They were another 7/10 quicker than David Alonso, and they were, in fact, in the end, a quarter of a second quicker than Vanden Goorbergh. But Alonso could soon be under threat once again.
He's in trouble, is Alonso here. He's going to get caught if things carry on as they are. He's going to have to find something. He'll need to react to his pit board. Just finishing my train of thoughts on Alberto Ferrandez, as we said, came into the weekend 2nd in the championship, managed to take 7th earlier on, a 2nd consecutive 7th place, but did lose ground with Zonta Vanden Goorbergh able to leapfrog him. He's going to lose even further ground here because he came across the line in 9th, so not the weekend that Ferrandez was hoping for. He was hoping that this was going to be the weekend to ignite his title charge as he tried to close down David Alonso. It's gone the opposite direction so far for the young Spaniard.
Yeah, it has. We're keeping an eye on the lap times or the sector times of this lap. They're all going very, very quickly. In fact, the slowest of the 4 so far on this lap is the leader, Vanden Goorbergh. Not that he's going slowly at all. It was a personal best first sector, and they're all pretty much matching each other in the second sector. So it may be Alonso has just regrouped a bit. Maybe that was just a poor lap for him, a 2:04.8 on that last lap, compared to a 2:04.0 for the 2 riders immediately behind him. It looks as if David Alonso has sort of regrouped and got himself back into gear, and more to the point, back within sight of the race leaders. We come through the third checkpoint, which is around about now as we come onto the main straight. And again, nothing to choose between them. It looks as if we've got a four-way fight with just over a second splitting them.
Yeah, 1.079 crosses the first four riders at the moment, with what is soon to be 9 laps remaining here in Aragon. Marco Morelli doing all the hard work for Ivan Ortola. If Ortola's able to pick his pocket in the latter stages, he definitely will have to move round to the Estrella Galicia boss and just give him a little bit of a pat on the back and a thank you for all the work that he put in for him, because it's Ortola that's benefiting greatly at the moment from Morelli digging in and trying to close in Alonso ahead of them. As they come across the line, the leading four now split by just 0.8 of a second, with Morelli and Ortola a tenth quicker than Alonso, and this time the slowest man of the leading four, the race leader Zonta van den Goorbergh. These four are starting to come together.
And a lot of that was in the first sector of the lap and in the last sector as well, where Ortola was so quick, not naturally, because he was right in the slipstream of Morelli ahead of him. They are telescoping together, this top four, in the battle for the lead. Here it is, as they all break into turn one. Van den Goorbergh looking strong, and he's, again, setting personal best sector times, but it's just not, he just doesn't have an answer at the moment to the guys behind him. Ortola this time, fastest first sector of the race so far, as that leading quartet continues to close together. And in some ways, this might not be the worst thing for Van den Goorbergh. If Alonso has now got some competition from behind, he can't just focus on the rear wheel of Van den Goorbergh and measure his pace against him and try and set himself up for an attack later on. Alonso might have to look behind him soon and start defending from Morelli on Ortola, who are zeroing in on the back of the series leader.
Well, this is very similar to what we saw in race one earlier in the day. Van den Goorbergh took the lead earlier on and was looking like he was going to pull clear before eventually Carpe was able to catch him and pass him. And that's actually did Van den Goorbergh the world of good, because he was able to refocus, refine some rhythm, eventually passed him with, what, 5-6 laps remaining, and would eventually take the checkered flag 3.5 seconds clear. So if we do see Alonso go past him, I don't think Van den Goorbergh will panic, because he's been in that situation before.
He has, yeah. He's shown that he can respond to that kind of battle. Although the difference, I suppose, earlier on was that the rider, well, I was about to say the rider who overtook him earlier on wasn't a championship contender. Now, Van den Goorbergh told us after the race that he doesn't even think he's in the championship himself. But when he sees David Alonso come past him, whether we'll see that same patient approach from Van den Goorbergh remains to be seen, although Alonso's got enough trouble on his plate at the moment from Morelli, who's now caught him, and he's now trying to go past, and does, as does Ortola, who just set the fastest lap of the race on that last lap of 2:03.8. Alonso drops to fourth.
And now that Ortola and Morelli are with this leading group, Alonso fights back momentarily as we've got a couple of riders down there. That's the number 7 of Filippo Farioli. Don't know who else it was, but it looks as though whoever was the other rider that went down wasn't too pleased with the Italian. We'll get an indication momentarily of exactly who that was that went down. Farioli, incidentally, was outside of the points at the stage of when he went down. It could well have been the number 27 of Roman Sandoval. We'll get indication very shortly, as I say. Yes, it is. There he is, the number 27 of Romeo Sandoval. Sorry, not Roman. Here's a replay of exactly what happened into turn one. Well, it's this almighty gaggle of riders, and unsurprisingly, eventually something is given. Oh, nasty one. It looks as though it was Farioli trying to get under the inside of Sandoval. He took the front, and unsurprisingly, Sandoval not best pleased with his Italian.
And equally unsurprisingly, the fellow rider got involved, gave him the John McPhee treatment and chose not to engage at all, as McPhee did with Albert Arenas when they came together in the Moto3 Catalan Grand Prix a week ago.
Back at the front, though, and it's Ortola that has eventually got himself back in front of David Alonso now, so the championship leader has been demoted to fourth. Morelli and Ortola are the two men that are on the move in this race, because they've caught Alonso and both passed Alonso in the space of half a lap. It looks as though the next man that's going to get gobbled up is Van den Goorbergh. If they continue their pace at the moment, it's just a matter of when, not if, these two are able to get in front of the 84, in particular Morelli, who once again is doing all the hard work, with Ortola just tagging along for the ride.
Well, he doesn't think he's a championship contender, but whether to put the flag out now with Van den Goorbergh leading and Alonso down in fourth, that will be another 12 points gain. So the lead will come down to 26 points from 38. That's all changing now, of course, though, and Van den Goorbergh might find himself dropping to the back of the group. He's dropped 2 places as Morelli hits the front for the first time. Ortola following him through. And you do wonder, Jack, whether Ortola's the rider with the most pace here. He's just been following Morelli up to the front of the pack. Now that he's got there, can he now make a move on Morelli and show what he's made of?
He's certainly keeping his cards close to his chest. He's the number 48 of Ortola, but not for long. Through turn 4, he gets the job done. Puts a nice little bit of a exclamation point through turn 5 as well. So now a new leader at the front of this European Talent Cup race, but for how long? Because here comes Morelli. Had a look up the inside, but he was strong on the brakes there, was Ortola, just to ride around the outside. Goorbergh will fight back, though, and take second place away from Morelli as we head towards the downhill corkscrew of turns 8 and 9. There's 8, here's 9, and it's still Ortola that leads the way.
And Alonso now with a watching brief in 4th. He might be quite happy just to see these guys fight amongst themselves for the moment. Whilst he's got the pace to match them in 4th position, he might just choose to just stay well clear of this. Of course, he's the rider in this quartet with the most to lose. He's the one with the 38-point lead. He's the rider who does not want to get involved in a crash. Remember what happened with Morelli at the last corner of the race earlier on today. If that kind of thing happens to Alonso, if someone else has an accident and just takes him out, that's another potential 25 points of his championship lead that could disappear. So you could perhaps understand Alonso exercising a bit of caution at the back of this leading group.
You have to give credit to the determination of Zonta van den Goorbergh, just like we saw in race 1. Cruces got in front of him, Carpe got in front of him, and he bit back immediately, and that's exactly what he's done here. He lost 2 places, a carbon copy move from both Morelli and Ortola, as they both eased their way through and the man in front into turn 1, but in the space of half a lap, Van den Goorbergh bites back, and now he retakes the lead with Ortola tucked in 2nd, Morelli 3rd, and David Alonso just clinging on at the moment in 4th place.
Incredible battle that you saw at the back of the picture there for 5th position, which is currently led by Ferrandez. There's less than 2 seconds separating Ferrandez in 5th from Garcia, the 49, in 18th position. Here they all come. Try and pick a winner out of this lot. The 12 on the inside of the Leopard rider, that's Rulestone having a look up the inside. He tries to pick a few riders off. He came across the line in 10th. Heaven only knows where he is at the moment.
Well, that's a close your eyes and just hope for the best type of battle, isn't it? Meanwhile, at the front, I think we might be getting a similar sort of fight here momentarily. 5.5 laps remaining. David Alonso managed to get himself back into 3rd as they went into turn number 1. Now onto the tailpipe of teammate Ortola, but how long for? Because Ortola again was looking to find a way through into turn 7. Now heading towards turn 8. Again, Ortola is off the bike with his lanky knees just hanging out. He is probably a little bit too big for these European Talent Cup bikes now. Is the number 48. He's noticeably bigger on the bike than any of the other leading 4.
He is, but he's quick with it at the moment. He's all over the back of Zonta van den Goorbergh, and he looks threatening, doesn't he? He looks like he's got the pace to have a real go at the race leader. Just 5.5 laps to go in this one, and it's a very different race than we saw earlier on, of course. Alvaro Carpe, who was the rider who took us all by surprise, and he's down in 13th at the moment. He's just got embroiled in that battle, that 11-rider battle. 11 and plus riders battling for 5th position, and he's down in 14th now as he tries to find his way through. Angel Piqueras is another rider who we expected a lot from. He's also embroiled in that group down in 12th, with Harrison Voigt, the podium finisher earlier on, struggling in 10th at the moment, although to be fair to him, he's a few bike lengths away from a potential 5th place.
Well, in this fight here, if you get punted wide, say you're Alberto Ferrandez and your teammate Adrian Cruces dives through into turn 16 and you go wide, you could go from 5th down to 18th place. That's how tight the fight is. All you have to do is look at Julio Garcia, the number 49 on the back of the group. He started the race in 5th, but finds himself down in 18th. Meanwhile, no such problems for Ivan Ortola. He did have the lead, but once again, the number 84 of Van den Goorbergh finds a way to bite back almost immediately, as does teammate David Alonso. He had a big look up the inside and he manages to get the job done as well. So it's our 2 championship protagonists back at the front once again with now 5 laps to go.
Isn't that just European Talent Cup racing in a nutshell? We did see it just out of shot as we were looking at the second group as Ortola shaped up for a move up the inside into the final corner. But from one corner, attacking for the lead and being on the offensive yourself, by the end of the next straight, he was not only back down to 2nd, but being overtaken by his teammate for dropping him down to 3rd. So Ortola, you can attack at one corner and find yourself falling prey to rivals at the next. And at the moment, the 2 championship leaders who we looked as though we were going to be seeing fight for the win amongst themselves earlier on, they're back at the front again.
And that's probably the biggest lead we've seen at the front of this race for quite some time now. It's only 0.2 of a second, 3 or 4 bike lengths, but it's certainly the biggest that we've seen for some time, as Alonso will surely close back in there after Van den Goorbergh went ever so slightly wide through turn number 11. Now we're approaching turn 12. Here comes Ortola. He's managed to bite back on teammate Alonso. Morelli, meanwhile, is he just falling off the back of this group? He did all of the hard work to close in on the leading duo, and now he looks to be paying the price.
He does. No team tactics, and nor should there be at this stage between the two Aspar riders. Ortola's out there for himself rather than trying to assist Alonso in this battle for the title. Alonso just burying himself with the slipstream now, trying to have a look as we go to the final corner. He should take that one as they go down into turn 16. Nico Terol watching on as we are to see which of his two Aspar riders comes out ahead, and it is Alonso on the 80 who goes into the final corner in second place. But at the moment, just a little bit of, just 4 or 5 bike lengths for Zonta Van den Goorbergh. So Alonso, he won't want to see that gap get much bigger than that. Whilst it's only a couple of tenths of a second as they cross the line, he'll be happy. But he's coming under threat once again from his teammate. He has the inside line on Ortola, so Ortola will struggle to get round there, and indeed he doesn't. But Van den Goorbergh's lead, just a tenth of a second over the line. So that final sector, Van den Goorbergh not having any kind of slipstream at his disposal, that brief lead, which was 4 tenths, just got swallowed up again.
Morelli, meanwhile, looks to be out of this one. I think he's 3/4 of a second off the back of Ivan Ortola in third now. So despite the number 95 putting in all the hard work, the 13-year-old Spaniard may well be coming unstuck in the final 3 or so laps here in Aragon. A 4th place finish still commendable for the young Spaniards, but you never know, as the top 3 start to go to war in the final stages, that may well just drag him back into contention once more. He certainly won't be giving up just yet.
Yeah, we've got a battle of the Aussies now in that second group. We just saw them briefly. It's Rulstone and Voigt who are at the front of that second group in 5th and 6th. Piqueras has rebounded back up to 7th, having dropped outside the top 10 earlier on. Then it's Kreutzes, Real is 9th, and Ferrandez in 10th. But that is all going to change in the laps that we have to come. That's changing corner by corner. We keep a close eye on these two Aspar riders who are chopping and changing amongst themselves at the moment without really making much of a dent into Van den Goorbergh, who's trying to up the pace on this lap. Fastest sector 2 of the race so far. It's not giving him much of a time in hand over these two Aspar riders, and as we've seen in previous laps, any advantage that Van den Goorbergh does have just gets swallowed up in that final sector as these two Aspar riders tow each other down the straight. Will they do that again? You'd expect Ortola, from where he is, to draft back past Alonso again. We'll see if he does. Here he comes alongside his teammate and back into second. But at the moment, Van den Goorbergh just has them arm's length.
It's enough. It's enough at the moment for Van den Goorbergh. It's a comfort buffer, which he'll be more than happy to take, especially with the 80 and the 48 continuing to fight and squabble over second place. That's not helping their cause at all, and I'm sure we might see Nico Terol bending over the pit wall very shortly to say to the guys, come on, get your act together. There he is, right on cue. I promise I didn't see him out of our commentary box window, but just on cue, there's Terol saying, come on, guys, you're supposed to be teammates, work together, because there's a race victory up for grabs here.
And only 3 laps now to try and chase down Van den Goorbergh. It's still within reach, 0.6 of a second. But one more lap with the lead at this sort of range, and they're going to struggle to pull that back in. Alonso, then, is he the rider who has the pace to chase Van den Goorbergh down? Ortola has looked the faster at stages of this race, and he's right on the back of his teammate again. But Van den Goorbergh is just keeping them at arm's length. Personal best lap that last time around for Van den Goorbergh, a 2:04.3. And he pulled out 0.6 on the two Aspar riders behind him, who, as I say, were too busy watching each other. Here's this second group then. It's Harrison Voigt who leads it at the moment in 5th position. But as we look back down the points positions, Colin Vire, who's just outside the points in 16th position, he's just 1.2 seconds behind him.
Incredible, incredible. David Real is up to 6th place now as well. This is one of the first times we've seen him, the young Spaniard, in the European Talent Cup. But what a performance this is so far from the number 32. We'll concentrate on the leading trio, though. We've now 2.5 laps remaining. And here comes a move for second once more. It's a carbon copy of what we saw a lap prior, with Ortola squeezing his way past teammate David Alonso as the Dutchman Van den Goorbergh just ever so slightly creeps away in the distance.
Yeah, it is, and this is the last thing that the Aspar team need if they want to win this race. They're pretty much kissing goodbye to their chances at the moment. Maybe they've both recognised that Van den Goorbergh's just got too much for them this afternoon, and they're going to have to settle for a battle for second place. It looks that way now because the lead is now up to 0.8 of a second as they come through the final sector point. Here is Harrison Voigt. There's the 32 of Real, who is racing in the Cura de Campeones this year. He's just 9 points off the series lead in that at the moment. So he's a rider clearly with a big future ahead of him, making an appearance in the European Talent Cup this weekend. And he's right in the thick of the action. A novel approach on track limits there from Piqueras on the 18, who decided to go all the way over the curb on the way into the final corner. And it didn't seem to work out for him, just as this is not working out for Aspar. Ortola over the line in second, but with 2 laps to go, 0.8 looks too much of a gap to bridge at the moment.
Piqueras was pretty much in Alcañiz as he flicked it left into the final corner there. But it looks as though he's managed to hold on to 9th place. So a good ride coming from him, although he looks like he's going to struggle to match that top 5 finish.
Saw him take a long
1.
lap penalty earlier on. He seemed to impose one on himself there in this race as he tried to fight for that 5th position, which he is still very much in the mix for. At the front then, 0.8 of a second, a lap and a half to go. If there's going to be any move from Ortola, who is now starting to put a little bit of time into Alonso, it's got to come now. But at the moment on this lap, he's not making any inroads into the leader. But these are 4 crucial points for Alonso. We look at the championship standings at the moment. These would be 9 points more taken in the favour of Zonta Van den Goorbergh. So that would take the lead down to 29 points with 3 races to go. Still very much in David Alonso's hands, but Van den Goorbergh, maybe he will start to gain some belief if he can take another victory here in a lap and a half's time, especially if Alonso just struggles to not only keep in touch with him, but take second. Here is Alonso looking to try and remedy that, but he can't get at the inside of Ortola at the moment. He's going to have 2 more chances into the final corner, one coming up just the other side of this quick flick right and left onto the back straight. We've seen him a couple of times earlier in this race get himself into the slipstream and breeze past Ortola. He does seem to be faster, particularly being such a lighter, smaller rider. He just seems to enjoy some more speed down the straight. But can he enjoy that this time as he has a little look at the back? He doesn't appear to be close enough.
And all of a sudden, Morelli is suddenly just creeping himself back into contention. We've got pretty much 1 lap to go in Aragon. We're into the final corner for the penultimate time. It's Van den Goorbergh's to lose with just 5.1 kilometres remaining. His advantage now, 1.5 seconds over Ortola. It's exactly what we saw in race 1. Put under pressure at half race distance, but Van den Goorbergh thrived under that pressure, eventually taking a checker flag by 3.5 seconds this morning. It's going to be less than that, but who cares? It's still going to be 25 points for the Dutchman if he can continue on this final lap. But this is a vital fight in the championship. At the moment, with David Alonso finishing 3rd, as you said, Lewis, that advantage in the title will be cut to under 30 points with 3 races to go. A 2nd place would be a huge tonic for the Colombian going into 1 race tomorrow. And Morelli is with him as well. Well, the Estrella Galicia man, we wrote him off 4 laps prior, but suddenly, having done all the hard work earlier in the race, he's found a 2nd breath just when it mattered, and he could well be clinching 2nd or 3rd away from either or both of the Aspar riders.
Yeah, it looks like they've just slowed each other up, the 2 teammates, and look, they've brought Morelli right into play. There is a back marker coming up that they might come across in this final sector. Van den Goorbergh will probably be overtaking him right about now. There he is, look. That's Pasiuk, the pole on the 58, who's about to be lapped. Let's hope he gets out of the way of the race leader. There he goes. Maybe didn't have a choice in the end. Van den Goorbergh carves past him. Will these 3 catch that back marker in the last sector of the lap?
Let's hope not. Pasiuk is tucking him behind him despite the blue flags. He's pretty undeterred, is the young Pole, as he tries to go with the race leader. He's eventually just backing off there, and I'm sure we'll be seeing blue flags to move out the way. Meanwhile, Zonta Van den Goorbergh is cruising towards another victory in the European Talent Cup. Ortola is just about holding off both Alonso and Morelli as he flick left 1 final time out of turn 15. Who's going to get the best drag down the back straight the final time to be able to take the closing podium places? One thing is for certain, though, it's Van den Goorbergh's once again here in Aragon.
Here comes Alonso. He pulls out the slipstream and through he goes. That might be enough, and those will be 4 crucial points if Alonso can hang to that. Morelli's now having a look in the inside. He's had a bit of last corner heartache in recent rounds already. Oh, Alonso goes wide now, and that's let Ortola through.
A bobble from Alonso, and Ortola will steal 2nd. Meanwhile, it's 3 on the bounce for Zonta Van den Goorbergh. Another victory in the European Talent Cup for the Dutchman. 2nd goes the way of Alonso. He just steals steals it away from teammate, with Morelli taking a heartbreaking 4th place. He was less than a 10th away from Alonso in 2nd, 12 thousandths of a second shy of the podium and Ortola. Meanwhile, in that almighty fight for 5th place, it's Adrian Cruces that takes it in the end. 5th, but he was only, what, 1.2 seconds clear of Colin Vire down in 17th. What a fight that was.
Incredible. Harrison Voigt was next up in 6th. He pipped Ferrandez by 1,000th of a second over the line. There'll definitely be a photo finish for that. Ferrandez then ended up classified 7th, but we'll have a check on that in a moment. Tapia 8th. Piqueras in the end finishing 9th ahead of David Real in 10th. Rulstone taking points in 11th ahead of Ruda. Carpe unable to hit the same heights of earlier today. He's 13th ahead of Sacco, with Hugo Milan taking the final point.
One thing is for certain though, it's Zonta van den Goorbergh's day in the Aragon sunshine. A double win here on Saturday for the Dutchman. But how pivotal by the time we get to the season finale in Valencia could that move by David Alonso on teammate Ivan Ortola be? Who knows what will happen in the final 3 races of the year, but those 4 points could prove pivotal, as once again Alonso is noting with Van den Goorbergh something to do with that right foot of his. He was clearly struggling. It'd be interesting to know Lewis on his way down to Parc Fermé to maybe get an indication or try and find out what exactly happened to David Alonso there, because he's clearly not happy with something. Maybe he feels that was the difference in the end between 2nd place and the race victory. They'll get one more go at it tomorrow though, so starting from the outside of the front row, Alonso will hopefully be able to fix those issues. And I'm sure tomorrow he'll have that man to contend with again. Ivan Ortola taking 3rd place for the 2nd time this year. Continues a run now of 4 top 4 finishes in the past 5 races. Good work from Ortola. Some consistency that will surely see him rise up to 3rd in the championship. Unsurprisingly, out of that almighty fight for 5th place, one rider did exceed track limits on the last lap. It was Marco Tapia, the number 13. So the Mallorcan will drop from 8th to 9th, with Piqueras being able to benefit from that and leapfrogging him to take 8 points in 8th place. So the championship picture then, David Alonso, he's still in control. Now 33 points clear of Van den Goorbergh, with only 3 races remaining. He doesn't look as though he's going to wrap up the championship tomorrow here in Aragon. We did think that may well be on the menu as he came into the year 52 points ahead. His championship lead has been cut quite significantly, but he's still definitely in control of it. A smart ride in the end. We did say that it was as a pivotal race for him to either highlight that race 1 crash as a blip on the copybook, or as a more serious issue as the championship drew nearer and nearer. But he's proved with 2nd place that it clearly was a blip, and he's back to his best to make sure he continues his run of finishing inside the top 2 riders on the race for a 7th time in 8 races. The same can be said for this man as well. A hat-trick of wins for Zonta van den Goorbergh. 3 on the bounce for the Monaco-born Dutchman, as he continues to move further and further closer to a top 2 finish in the championship. That looks almost certain now. Can he still overcome those 33 points? He's going to need a helping hand. All he can do, that's what he said earlier on, is go out and win races, and that's what he's doing so far. He's picked up both of them today here in Aragon. The number 84, a dominant display on Saturday by Van den Goorbergh. Here's Nico Terol, less than over-exuberant was Terol. A small fist pump as he sees both Aspar riders jump onto the podium in 2nd and 3rd. As Alonso gets the better of teammate Ortola, not for the first time this year. Great to see that though. Alonso, I think that gesture there was not in the direction of Van den Goorbergh. It's because of a couple of issues he was having down the right-hand side of his bike. Hopefully, as we said, Lewis Sotheby has been able just to have a bit of a look and maybe at a social distance, of course, a chit-chat with one of the Aspar team members to try find out. If not, we will certainly try our best to work it out and bring the news to you tomorrow. Make sure you book your place on the sofa as well before a bumper Saturday of CEV action. Before we leave you though, let's get the thoughts of the race winner. 3 on the bounce now for Zonta van den Goorbergh in the European Talent Cup.
Zonta van den Goorbergh, second win of the day. You had to battle against the 2 Aspar riders, but strong pace at the end of the race, and that must give you huge confidence for tomorrow as well.
Yeah, it was a harder race than the first one. I was pushing all race, and then I was in the beginning with David Alonso. And then out of nowhere, Marco Morelli and Ivan Otola closed in, and it was a 4-way battle for the win. Then with like 4 or 5 laps remaining, I thought I'd go push and maybe I can break away. And every time saw the gap going up, and almost in the last lap, they came back again because I had a back marker, but luckily came past and still P1.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
Another win, more delight for Zonta van den Goorbergh. Started his, incredibly, 5th race in a row from pole position. And not for the first time, he took the whole shot as well. Another great start from the young Dutchman. Meanwhile, the number 58, further back, Henri, the Frenchman, had to start from pit lane. But from pole position, as we said, took the whole shot and quickly got to work, did the 14-year-old Dutchman. This time, though, he had company in the form of championship leader David Alonso, the Colombian, eventually chasing down what was a 1-second advantage on the opening lap to be able to make sure we had a 4-wheeler at the front of the race. Further back, this almighty scrap involving 13 riders was underway from 5th all the way back to 17th. 13th became 11, though, when Sandoval and Farioli went down in the latter stages. Hard work, grit and determination from Marco Morelli, with Ivan Ortola tucked in behind him, saw them overcome a 2-second deficit to join the leading group. But as Van den Goorbergh just said, as soon as Ortola and Morelli went past him, he refound a second win, knew he had to refocus, and that's exactly what he did. And just like from this morning, he was able to pull further clear and take a 3rd win in a row in the European Talent Cup. He becomes the hat-trick hero to Zonta van den Goorbergh. Meanwhile, further back, it went right down to the last sector and the last corner for the final podium places, with Alonso, Ortola and Morelli separated by a 1/10 of a second, with Alonso taking second. A vital 4 points he managed to gain after getting the better of teammate Ortola out to the final corner. So Zonta van den Goorbergh wins once again here in Aragon. Double delight for him on Saturday. 3 seconds clear of David Alonso as the championship leader. Picks up a vital 20 points. Now just 3 races left for the Colombian. Ivan Ortola back onto the podium ahead of Marco Morelli and Adrian Cruzes, with Harrison Voigt, Alberto Ferrandez, David Real and Marco Tapia and Angel Piqueras inside the top 10. A little bit of moving and shaking between those guys, with Tapia and Piqueras both having a track limits violation on the final lap, meaning that the debutant David Real was able to leapfrog both of them to finish in 8th place. Further back, the final points going away of Alvaro Carpe, who wasn't able to come up with the same magic that saw him jump onto the podium earlier on today, ahead of Dejira Sacco and the number 44 of Hugo Malan.
Team Manager. Ahí tenemos aplausos para Patrick van der Goorbergh. En representación del equipo Super B, en la 3ª posición de la Talent, número 48, el piloto español, ahí está Iván Ortola.
Well, it's another one of the Van den Goorbergh clan that's able to come up and take the team award. That is not Father Jürgen. Father Jürgen is the bald-headed. I was trying to think of a more polite way of saying it, but I don't think it's rude anyway. That's exactly what he is anyway.
Alonso taking second place. I did catch a quick word with him after the podium. He said it was a problem with his rear brake that he was having in that race, which he said he'd had from the second lap onwards. So that was obviously inconveniencing him during race 2.
I'm not surprised, but he's onto the podium for the 11th time in his European Talent Cup career. There's the team award for Patrick van den Goorbergh. Another one for the Super B concern. Third place going the way of Ivan Ortola, a 6th podium finish in his European Talent Cup career. Number 2 of the year for the Spaniard. Number 3 of the year, sorry, for the Spaniard. Once again, David Alonso is on the podium. That is his 7th visit in 2020, his 11th in his European Talent Cup career. And it's 3 wins in a row for Zonta van den Goorbergh in the European Talent Cup. Once again, a nice little check. That's now €500 going the way of the Dutchman. That will certainly help him out. Probably getting back from Aragon and then getting to Valencia for the season finale as well. Getting quite used to the Dutch national anthem in the European Talent Cup, that and the Colombian national anthem, because on only one occasion have we heard any national anthem other than either Colombian or the Dutch. It's been domination for David Alonso in the first half of the year, and now it's time for Zonta van den Goorbergh to have his little bit of dominance as well. A run of 3 straight victories. He'll look to try and match Alonso's 4 straight at the start of the year when we go racing tomorrow afternoon. The sparkling water drenches all 3 of them. And the good news is the wind has died down. The sun is now finally out here in Aragon, so they should dry off in no time whatsoever. Well, what a day we've had here at FIM CEV Repsol action. Plenty of twists and turns in all 3 championships. David Alonso, 33 clear now in the European Talent Cup, with Jari Montoya further clear in the European Moto2, and Xavier Artigas also able to extend his lead in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. In the European Talent Cup, though, as we said, van den Goorbergh there in 2nd.
So mathematically, David Alonso can win the 2020 European Talent Cup tomorrow. He's got a 33-point lead. To win the championship tomorrow, he needs to outscore van den Goorbergh by 18 points, which is the equivalent to a win with van den Goorbergh down in 9th, or a 2nd place with van den Goorbergh essentially out of contention. So it's unlikely, but Alonso could potentially be less than 24 hours away from being European Talent Cup champion for 2020.
The championship trophy is here just in case. It's polished in an office, ready to be brought out and unveiled if necessary. It looks as though it may well have to be moved on to Valencia, where we'll have all 3 championships surely decided if today is anything to go by. But with 5 races tomorrow, 2 for the Junior World Championship, 2 for the European Moto2, and 1 more for the European Talent Cup, well, anything could happen. It's been Jack Appleyard and Lewis Sotheby with you throughout the day. And the good news is we're back tomorrow as well. Book your place on the sofa for a Sunday CV special. 5 races coming your way from 11 AM tomorrow. Will this man, Zonta van den Goorbergh, be able to make it 3 out of 3 in Aragon? Tune in to find out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.